Hello guys, welcome back to another video with me, HJ Reptifish. In this video we're going to be doing a full tour / review of our FLUVAL Shaker 168. Now we're going to be going through everything that we found is a massive pro and a massive help, like a really good idea, and we're going to be going through the stuff that we don't really get along with, or maybe we'd change if they were to bring out another range. Now I've owned this tank since November, we're now in February, so I've had it for a few months. Obviously not long term yet, so there'll be nothing in terms of reviewing how things last longevity wise, but in terms of getting it up, getting it running, seeing how it is running in terms of how the filter's managing with the fish load and the waste, the lights so we can see the plant growth, everything like that. We're going to be going through it start to finish, and we're going to help you decide whether a FLUVAL Shaker is the right tank for you. So let's get on with it. So we'll start from the top and work our way down to the bottom. Now, starting from the top of the tank, we have obviously this little rimless tank under here, but we have this border that goes round it. Now, this looks pretty cool, sets the tank with the unit below, obviously same colour, looks pretty uniformed. It's the exact same with the side angle as well, especially when the wall is similar colour, you get a pretty good contrast. Now, the first problem we found with this was nothing to do with the actual pet shop, our local fish store, but was actually a manufacturing fault from FLUVAL. Now all of these, to connect, have pre-drilled holes in. So you'll have two here, then you'll have one for this little grommet, one for that, same again. And that goes all the way around. Now when we unboxed this, we found that this panel here had a complete smooth panel, so there was no holes at all in it whatsoever. So as you can see, ever so slightly, just there, it protrudes over a little bit. Now that is because we had to guesstimate where the hole would go and drill them ourselves. That is the same for the little grommets that hold the wood onto the tank. Again, weren't pre-drilled, we guessed wrong, and it's a little bit too high, so that is on display along with this, which isn't the smoothest to fit, but that is just a manufacturing fault. Hopefully they're not all like that, I'm sure they're not. I just got a little bit unfortunate, but I still would not change it because I think this little barrier around the tank looks great and it really separates it from the actual fish tank itself. Coming on from that, you've got two slidey hatches, nice and easy. What they do, they just run on two little runners here. The smaller one goes on the inside, the larger one goes on the outside, and they just run. You've also got a little gap there for your cable management. Now we have a little flow pump here and we run it just over there, but on this side you actually do get this little thing here. Now what that does is basically allows you to manage your cables better by tucking them in here in the little grooves, same as the filter. So we've got the light wire and the filter wire both tucked in there and both down here, if it will focus. There we go. So that keeps everything tidy and nice and neat, so when you actually look into the display tank you don't get all these wires, you just get two going directly up and then nice and neat. So from the top half, bar the manufacturing fault, everything's good. These really sturdy, never really slip, never come off. Obviously they get condensated because of the heat of the water and the light, but you can just wipe them, really simple. Same with this side, really simple, nice and smooth operation. So yeah, really good. Obviously stops all the dust getting in as well, and also it maintains the temperature better, so that is also a positive. You could take this off and take the lid off and kind of have a rimless tank as such, but again, in terms of maintaining heat, it is literally heating the water and then rising, causing evaporation, and the heat is then leaving the aquarium, so your heater is going to be working double as hard. Now coming on to the light, again we've got these little black runners around the edge, just here. They hook on nicely. Now the light is actually quite close to the water surface, but you do have a fill line, which is really good because a lot of tanks don't have these. You can just see it there, and as you can see there's little waves on the photo, so it tells you exactly where you can fill it to. Now some people on fish forums have their aquarium and it's filled up to like here or even lower, and they never know how far they can fill it, and they're unsure on how far they can fill it. Now that little sticker although for me I know how far to fill it, for somebody that isn't too sure, that is a perfect indicator. So you can just about see it in there. So it tells you how far you can fill the tank, so you know you're not overfilling it or underfilling it. So again, for somebody who's a novice, that is a really good, helpful little thing. Now the light, obviously this is the FLUVAL light. You can see the branding just here. It comes obviously as a complete kit with the FLUVAL Shaker edition. Now this is the 168 litre. I think it might be 44 gallons in US, not entirely sure. But this is the smaller one. With the bigger one, you get a split in the cabinet there with storage. This is just a smaller one. So we've got the plant grow light from FLUVAL, and again, really good. Obviously a little bit warm, not too hot. Doesn't really contribute to the fish tank temperature overall. But yeah, does a great job. Just make sure when you do your maintenance to keep on top of the cleaning, because obviously where it is condensated from the panels, it sometimes drips onto this and you get this horrible kind of texture. But again, as long as you're doing your maintenance as you should on a regular basis, that won't be an issue. So that's the top half covered. Now we're going to move on to the tank itself and the filter going down, because it is an under tank filter, and we'll work our way down from there. Right, now going on to the actual display tank itself, we've got the heater, which is obviously again a FLUVAL heater. Really good, haven't had no issues with it. I did have slight issue with reading the temperature, but that was because I had a faulty digital thermometer. We now have the old school glass ones, and we have a strip as well, and that reads really accurate. So yeah, great heater so far, and it also indicates a blue light when it turns on to heat. You'll hear a little click, that means it's heating, and then when it hits the desired temperature, it will then flick itself off. And then again, vice versa, you'll hear that click when it then comes back on. But that's no issue at all, and it's good to have a little blue light indicator just to know that it is heating or cooling. Now, in this display, you can't really see the inlet and the outlet. So the inlet is down there. Let me just turn these pumps off so you can see. Okay, so this is a little bit better. So I've turned all the pumps off. So you've got these two nozzles just here. Now they are the outlet. They let the water out. So one spurs that way, one spurs that way. That creates a good flow around the tank, so there's no stale spots where waste will build up and debris. And then all the way down there, obviously a little bit shorter, if I can just zoom in, there you go, you can just about see it, that is the inlet pipe. Obviously that is coned off as it comes, because you don't want too big of a gap to get anything sucked up in there. As you can see, there's a little snail on it, but that is the inlet, and here we have the outlet. Now this is a fairly big tank. Now the only thing I can find with these, if you can look at the actual height of them, you can't even see them from there. You can just about see them where the plant ends. Sorry, that was my tegu just causing an absolute havoc. So yeah, you can only just see the outlets, one there and one going the other way. Now the problem I found with these, look at the gap from basically here all the way to the top. That is a lot. Now I don't really find that it gives enough surface agitation to the water. So as you can see, the water is dead still at the minute. That's purely because we've turned it off. But what I'll do, I'll show you it with just the filter on and show you the amount of flow and water surface agitation it creates. I don't feel like it's a great deal. So now we have just the filter running. Now you can see it's hitting this glass panel here. You can direct these nozzles ever so slightly, but they don't move a whole lot. Now as you can see, the water is slightly currented there, so it will come out, push against this glass that way, and direct itself that way. And then you've got the other one where you can see that grass reed moving. That is where the water is coming out of the second one and pushing it across. But in terms of the actual movement on the water surface, it's not a whole deal. Now again, coming to the far side of the tank, you can kind of see the ever so slight ripple going this way from where the water is projecting out, and again it will hit both the glass panels and come towards this way. But overall the movement is very, very limited and slow. This is a little bit of a better angle where you can just see the water agitation ever so slightly. You can just see the kind of ripples in it. Now I don't really feel that that is efficient enough given the amount of fish that we have in this aquarium, yes, we do have live plants which help with the oxygen, but they also take away from that at night. So basically, to contribute with this flow, as you can see coming to the front, there's not a whole lot of movement. Say they were never at the top coming up for air, but it just seemed like it weren't enough for my personal opinion. I'd like to see a little bit more of a stronger current, or at least some bubbles. So in addition to the outlet, what we've done is we've sourced a second filter for the tank. Now this is a little box filter, you can see it on the back here. Now this is where your media sponge would be, and we've completely removed that, so there's nothing in there at all. It is just an empty tub. This little bit, the pump, is the important bit, because this filter comes with a spray bar. So as you can see here, the pump is completely, the filter box is completely empty. It's just clear, nothing in there at all apart from water, and the little top bit here is the pump with a little propeller shaft. Now that will go into the outlet pipe as a spray bar and spray it across the aquarium. So you've got water flowing this way and then water flowing the opposite way to create a bit more of a current and a bit more agitation. Now that feels like the fish are getting on a lot better with that. We'll add it on and show you guys. Now as you can see, with that tiny little filter turned on, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6 nozzles spraying water that way. Now look at the water agitation now. Not only is it on this side, it is also protruding over to this side, and the tank looks a lot more just better. You can just see the agitation in the water like that. That is more convincing instead of looking at a tank with nothing. So bear that in mind when you buy this as a complete kit, regardless of how much you spend. Yes, you've got a filter, yes, you've got a heater, yes, you've got a light, you've got the cabinet, you've got the tank. Bear in mind you might just need to grab yourself a little filter with a spray bar just to run it across for the surface agitation. But depending on what you're keeping, you might be alright. But obviously, like I say, I like just having a little bit more agitation on the surface of the water like that. But that is personal preference, and that was down to me. Like I say, you don't have to do it, but yeah, that's what I've done. So little tip for you to bear in mind if you are thinking about buying this tank. Overall though, far from the filter, inlet and outlet works perfectly, has never been blocked or clogged. Bear in mind this is an under tank filter, so the filter pipes for the inlet and outlet go all the way onto the base of the tank, and then they screw through here, and obviously inlet and outlet are coming down here into the filter. Now so far so good, I've never had an issue with this, I've never had a leak. I've done it exactly as the instructions said in terms of tightening these up, making sure the grommets are on, making sure they're tightened. Everything was done exactly to the instructions, so hopefully so far so good. Same with this side, there's never been loose or wobbly, you can only just see them through there. But yeah, they seem to be acting really good so far. I was a bit anxious about having 2 massive holes in a 168 litre aquarium, but at the minute it seems okay. And obviously it's better than having cables coming up around the side and an inlet and outlet coming out into the tank, especially when you've got this big barrier here as well, which we'll have to hook over. So in terms of the tank, there's nothing hanging around the outsides of it, which gives it a much more seamless look. So yeah, pretty good idea from FLUVAL, and very good because they've actually removed the back panels, so you can still get in for your maintenance, and obviously it's much easier to service the filter because you can have the pipes come around the back and directly down. But we'll get to the filter after we've done the display tank. So we've covered the filter, we've covered the heater, the inlet and outlet, the surface agitation. In terms of the actual tank, you can see how thick the silicone seals are. Touch wood, I've never had a leak, but yeah, feels really like thick silicone, like black silicone. You see some tanks and it's the thinnest of beads ever. But this seems pretty good. So yeah, they're kind of cornered off as well. Don't really know if you can see that, they're kind of cornered off. That's because when you clean with a scraper, it can sometimes, as you're coming to the edge, you can sometimes scrape the silicone off by doing that. And they're kind of rounded, so you can't do that, which is great. So yeah, the overall display tank, really good. I think the length is pretty good. I'm happy with the length of it, and the width as well. Not too shallow, but deep enough where you can still have enough going on back there, like fish privacy, stuff like that. So yeah, good good overall size. I'm happy with the size of the tank, happy with everything about the tank. Obviously this does run a little bit deeper, maybe to here. Again, this is a border to go round, so the tank doesn't end here, it ends sort of down here, and it slides on like that. There's nothing there, so you can just see where it goes round, just slides onto the front. So yeah, you have got that as well, but what we've done is put our soil there and our substrate. So yeah, overall happy with the display tank, happy with everything about it, other than make sure you've got good surface agitation for your fish. Coming on to the third and final breakdown section. Now we've got a plug socket here. We run one extension all the way around the tank, all the way around here and into here. Now this is a little power brick. So what we do, we have our little spray bar plugged in at the top, then we have our heater, then we have our filter, then we have our light, and then this little white one we've actually added ourselves. That goes round into here on this little switch, and this is a little LED bar. Now we just purchased this separately because, again, when you do all of the awkward stuff like the filter in terms of shutting the power off, priming, disconnecting, cleaning, this is what it would be like without the light. So yeah, you can still see what you're doing, you can still service it, you can still see things clearly, but when you're in here sort of every other week, say the least, you want to be able to see what you're doing, and also you want to make sure and check for any leaks or water droplets. So what I've done, just went to a local store, got some LEDs, and they're just adhesive ones that stick to the top, and I only have this light on when I'm surfacing the filter. So when the door's shut, that light is off. So that is just something handy to sort of think about investing in. Not a lot of money, maybe £10, a couple of, you know, it's like not a lot at all when you think about it, but it's just good to be able to have the filter there, to see it, to service it, see all around it so there's no dark spots. When it comes to disconnecting this to change sponges, it makes my life 10 times easier. So now that is explained, we'll just turn it off and that will be shut. So that is that done. Now with the unit, this one here is a false draw, so it does not open, goes all the way around onto this panel, and this door obviously opens. So this is just a display which looks nice and hides your filter, save it having to the side of the tank or around the back. So that's a pretty good idea. Now in terms of this side, like I say, we have our power station, all of our plugs, we have some spare filter stuff here and a microfiber cloth, we have our water test kit, and then again, little customization, a couple of little sticky pad hooks, which we've got our nets on, because it's good to have them hang up instead of laying down. So again, all we've done customization to the actual unit, added the sticky pads, and added the LED light bar. So this unit is an actual single swinging door, this one is an actual drawer, and in here we have all of our fishy bits. So we've got scissors when we cut fish bags, we've got a cup that we measure our water in when we test, we've got fish pellets, scissors, all of our fish foods, stress coat, 5-in-1 strips, capsules, a pipette, cat food, pellets, everything. So this is our fish bit here. So in terms of having the actual tank, you don't need anything sort of out of the tank which looks ununiformed. So I've got all my reptile stuff up here. I've got a couple of fishy bits like the prime and the plant nutrition, but other than that, shut this. Other than that, everything can be hidden, such as the filter, the inlet and outlet pipes, all your fish stuff. You don't need no drawer or anything on the side, everything can fit in there that you need, and all your nets can be hidden. So yeah, overall, pretty chuffed. So that is basically our 4-month review and breakdown of the FLUVAL Shaker 168. Now I'm pretty sure that there's obviously 2 ranges of this, being the 168 and then the bigger one. Obviously pretty similar in terms of the glass will be the exact same, the filter, like pipes will be the same, the wood, the quality of the unit, everything like that will be identical. It is literally just the different size tank in terms of holding literage, and I think the filter might be different in terms of the one up, maybe the 307, not entirely sure, but the unit quality overall, really high quality unit, apart from the manufacturing fault where the holes were not pre-drilled on that. Again, we overcome it though, it's not a big deal, but for the money you're paying, you wouldn't really like to deal with that hassle. Hopefully it was just a one-off and it was just a couple of us or just me. Hopefully yours are fine. But yeah, other than the unit not having the pre-drilled holes for this part, tank quality unit, really well built, nice handles. They've not sort of cheaped out on it. They've spent the money on it to look good, and when I've painted the room similar colour, it does really fit in the room well. Now I feel like when I was looking at tanks, I could have got a much cheaper tank, almost half the price, and bought a filter, a heater myself and a cabinet. But when you've got a fish tank sitting on a cabinet from somewhere and it's all just made up bits, I feel like it don't look as great. Walking in here seeing everything as one piece of kit, like, you know, the tank going with the filter, going with the heater, all in one, just looks great. So it is worth spending that extra money, I think, in my opinion, and getting a tank that matches the filter, the heater, the unit, instead of coming in seeing a tank which is sat on a massive unit and it just looks out of place. So yeah, the unit really well, quality build, pretty easy to put together as well. So yeah, chuffed with that. The overall tank itself, I think it's great. The glass, nice and clear, really high quality glass, not sort of smirky or sort of magnifying-y, so you can see sort of, you know, you can see it for what it is. It's not magnifying at all, it's not sort of rounded where you can't see into it. Great, really good glass. The silicone around the sides, excellent quality again. Like I said about that curved edge, instead of having just a cornered edge like that, so when you're cleaning the glass, you're not cutting away the silicone down the seams. Really chuffed with that. Again, like I said to you, heater, brilliant, never failed. Obviously I've only had the tank 4 months, so I'd expect it to last a lot longer. So yeah, that's doing great so far. The inlet and outlet pipe, now this is where maybe the first bit of criticism I'd give for the FLUVAL shaker. Now, given how much it would cost to make that PVC tube on the inlet and outlet a little bit longer, not even so much the inlet, but the outlet, just to raise it up to here, instead of about here, just to raise it up to here, just simply because it will save the hassle of the surface agitation. Now, you could say, oh, what if it's too high and it creates too much flow? But then you can turn the individual nozzles down to have them more level. Whereas now it's too low, you raise them up to the max and it's still not creating that much agitation. Whereas if it's too high, you can direct it downwards. So yeah, maybe that, I mean, that's me being picky. Like, I've just added a little spray bar, problem solved. And really I didn't have to add that. Like, the fish were okay, they weren't at the top coming up for air, they weren't all sat at the top here waiting, like breathing, they were fine. But because of the plants in here and the amount of fish, I prefer to have a spray bar, and that is something I've added myself. But again, personal preference. So other than that, no criticisms there, perhaps other than it could be a little bit higher, just to stop that agitation being a dilemma. The people in the shop did recommend a spray bar as well, purely because of that reason. But that was only added sort of 2 months in, so I did go 2 months without having nothing at all. But this is an expensive bit of kit when you add the tank, the filter, the heater, everything, the light. So just bear in mind you've got to spend that little bit extra, £10–15 for a spray bar as well. In terms of the top bit, like I say, I think this border really makes the tank stand out, especially when the room is similar colour and it matches the unit. So you could easily have this in the living room or like a dining room setting. It wouldn't feel out of place, it wouldn't just feel like you've chucked it there. You can really make it part of the furniture. So like I say, this room being similar colour, you walk in and it's in the corner, so it really matches the room, really suits the room. So again, I think these come in maybe 3 colours, like grey and oak and a wood, something like that. So depending on what colour you want, say if you've got a living room you want it in and you've got sort of the natural wood colour, you can go for that, and you can really make it fit in as part of the furniture. Now obviously you can see right through this tank, and the colour of the wall is similar to this, so seeing the background through here, again, really suits the tank. So I think the top barrier is really good, as well as the mesh sliding doors, the plastic acrylic doors. They're really good for holding in the heat and just making sure there's no dust particles or anything like that that can contaminate the water or get into the water. And again, really easy to operate, just sliding on little cable runners, real simple, real effective. So yeah, overall so far I think I'd give this tank probably a 9.5 out of 10. The only criticisms being maybe you could have a light with the filter, just so you can see what you're doing, a little LED light to stick under there just to see what you're doing, because you know it's a cupboard, you know it's going to be dark. Again, that's me being picky though, it's not really an issue. Filter, really happy with that overall, feel like it was great. So yeah, other than that, there's nothing I'd change. The light is great, like the plants, I mean I put these tall ones in maybe a week ago and they were up to like here, and they've just shot off, like I need to come down, they're overgrown. So the light is really good, everything really good. Overall, I don't think I could have picked a better tank. So that is my review of the FLUVAL Shaker. I will do another review as we progress to maybe a 6 month or a year, and see if my opinion changes. But until then, that has been me, HJ Rectifish. Thank you guys for watching the video, and stay tuned for another one next week.